Creating the Countryside looks at the idea of the rural idyll, past and present. And what we're doing with this exhibition is looking at how artists have shaped our ideas of the countryside, but also crucially how those ideas are reflected in the world around us. And so we've brought together an enormous range of works, spanning everything from a constable to a computer game. We've also set up a series of encounters between historic and contemporary works. So we've got works by artists including Gainsborough, Stubbs and Turner, but also thinking about artists who are making work in and in response to the countryside. Those include Hilary Jack, Sigrid Holmwood, Matt Collishaw and Grayson Perry. What this exhibition does is to offer new perspectives on the countryside and how it might be imagined. I think for many of us, our engagements with the countryside today come through fashion and lifestyle magazines and consumer choices. And this exhibition traces where these images come from in order to expand the traditional view of the countryside and perhaps act as a starting point for wider debates. Compton Ven is perhaps the ideal setting for an exhibition that looks at our relationship with the countryside. We're set within 120 acres of Capability Brown designed parkland, and it's a landscape that appears natural rather than designed. In many ways, it taps into the ideas that we're looking at in this exhibition, and particularly the notion of what constitutes the perfect view. This section of the exhibition is called The Pleasures of the Countryside and looks at the idea that the countryside is a product of our fantasies and imaginations as well as a real place. This is an idea explored in Grayson Perry's Vase Fantasy Village from 2006. And I think accesses a lot of those ideas. To travel into the countryside is to travel back in time, that it exists outside modernity.
The inspiration for this piece was when Grayson Perry visited a watercolour exhibition in a village hall. And what he noticed was that even though all of the paintings had been done recently, there were no images of contemporary rural life. And so what he's tried to do with this vase is to reinsert some of those images back into the picture. And we've got running across the vase a series of photographs which do just that. We've got an image of a thatched cottage with parked cars outside it, a garden centre, a motorway that's running through a rural scene. There's also things like electricity cables and litter as well. And what's interesting about this piece, using a kind of collage aesthetic, is very similar to some of the other pieces in this room as well, particularly those three pieces that feature toile de Jouy. Toile de Jouy is a fabric design that features little idealised vignettes of the countryside. It was very popular in the 18th and 19th century, but we find it a lot in home furnishings today. So very much like Grayson Perry, Ingrid Pollard is reinserting some of the things that are invisible in traditional toile de Jouy. So she's showing us rural labour, for instance, which would have been implicit in the production of original pieces of toile de Jouy. So what she's trying to do here is really bring out some of the hidden histories in what we might traditionally think of as being the pleasures of the countryside.
This section of the exhibition is called the Dark Pastoral, and I think the pastoral is most often associated with comforting images of shepherds in a landscape, whereas this section of the exhibition looks at the other associations that artists have used. So we've got works by William Blake, Samuel Palmer, John Piper, and in these works we see themes of mysticism emerging and even death. So one of the artists who picks up on this theme is Anna Fox, who made a series called Country Girls in collaboration with the musician Alison Goldfrapp.
Well, if Sunday night television has taught us anything, it's that we may happen upon a corpse at any moment in a pastoral landscape. And I think that that is what's going on in this image. Anna Fox and Alison Goldfrapp both grew up in the same Hampshire village, and they felt very restricted by the tight-knit nature of growing up as a young woman in a village. Anna has used here the aesthetics of advertising photography. So as viewers, we are seduced by the bright colours and shiny surfaces that we see here, but then the subject matter repels us. And so we oscillate between these two positions of being both attracted and repelled to this image, a position which makes us feel very uncomfortable, which perhaps mirrors how Alison and Anna felt growing up in that community. Today, some of the most widely circulated and powerful images of the countryside come through brands and consumer products. Here I've got my own collection of countryside-themed air fresheners. So each one of these was made in collaboration with the national parks, and they all represent a different one of the parks. What I find most interesting about them is the disconnection between the reality of those places and the fragrances that have been dreamt up. So for instance, the Lake District smells of midnight berries and shimmering mist. The Peak District smells of spring breeze and golden lilies. Overall, this exhibition explores the idea of the countryside as a real place, but also as a product of our fantasies and imaginations.
This exhibition brings together a rich array of works that explore the countryside from a number of different perspectives and really explores how it occupies such a powerful hold in our collective imagination.